Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel, Sugar, Spice, and Everything Chaos. This episode is super exciting because this is going to be the last episode of our second season. So, if you're following us, you know that this season we're talking about the politics of the female psyche, and we are actually doing a second part of an episode today, which is how to raise resilient daughters. So the difference between the previous episode and this episode is pretty simple. So in the previous episode, we spoke about how to raise resilient daughters when they're, in their girlhood. So before puberty, but this time we're going to talk about a little bit, of the chaos that girls bring when they become teenagers. This is something that, like parents get warned about when they have when they have daughters, where they say, yeah, daughters are cute and everything, but wait till they become teenagers, then you will know how daughters are difficult to deal with. And this sort of reputation comes from the fact that honestly, there's an education gap, right? So we do not really understand female reproductive systems. So apart from menstruation, what exactly does the female uh, development bring is something we don't really talk about. We know it's taboo. We also know that it's uncomfortable to talk about hormones. We just get irritated when someone says, "Oh, is she PMSing?" or It must be that time of the month. It's almost become like a bad thing when in reality these are things that are actually saving our lives. This is like the thing that creates life as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about this teenage phase of women and how it's often misunderstood, not because teens are horrible, but because we actually do not get enough education on it. And I'll start with this question: did you like your teen years?
Do you think I would like my teen years? Definitely not. I hated it. I hated it the most because I think that was when struggles start, I guess, for girls mostly. And yeah, I think I had a very difficult routine going on. I had four tuitions: physics, chemistry, math,
Wow.
biology. And it starts at 5 o'clock in the morning, and my day ends around 8:30, which is outside day ends at 8:30. Then I come back, I eat, and I sleep because I have exams at school and I also have exams and tuitions. So I wake up at 2 o'clock to study. So I really didn't have much going on otherwise, and I also struggle hormonally, puberty, and there was also an episode of a harassment episode that happened with somebody who came to my house, and it was very difficult because I think kids nowadays understand a lot about sexuality and things like that. I think I was very innocent back then. I really didn't have any idea of anything that's going on. And especially because I was been doing my schooling in a very small town. So that happened, and there was a lot of fight with my mother, and I felt very not understood. There was peer pressure, there was academic pressure, there was a need to fit in, and things like that. But I never really struggled with the beauty issues, which a lot of people struggle with. I used to look very bad, and I didn't care. I didn't think that much. I think I was probably just a kid still, even when I was a teenager. I didn't, I used to go play outside, but I got a lot of stares. I did get a lot of stares, which I was unable to understand why that was happening. And I used to wear these short skirts, and I was puny little thing. I was wearing a short skirt, and I think there was a lot of judgment. And then in church, and I went to read the Bible in the podium, and people asked me to wear a dupatta when I was wearing a kurta and a pant. So yeah, I don't think so. Teenage years was something that was really nice, and I don't know if that was what you wanted to hear.
This is exactly what I hope to hear because, like, it's not the teen years itself, it's what society wants us to experience when we are teens that we want to talk about today. So, this whole thing of like suddenly your body just out of your control develops, it's a very natural thing. It's not nothing to be like afraid of, nothing to be like, it's nothing wrong, right? It's beautiful that like the body kind of develops this way. But then suddenly there's this sort of like alienation that happens where you start to get treated like an alien in your own family. They start to kind of act as if you will do something that's very wild, and they start to work in ways where they want to cage you. So this experience of like going out and getting harassed, or in your schools, like I remember when I was in school, this is something that we would hear often, where they would say, "You are girls, behave like girls, like do not behave like boys." When they would tell this to us, when we are being loud, when we are being just like kids, right? So suddenly, right, having an opinion meant that you're trying to be a boy. Suddenly, being interested in sports meant that you're behaving like a boy. But then no, it was nothing to do with being boyish. It was just about, me being myself. But then suddenly, like you're a race that needs to be like contained. Why are you out of your cage? So I think this is something that we need to address. Like, why do you think like this whole mentality of like once you're a girl you need to be controlled comes in? Like, this is something that all of us are familiar with, right? The caged bird. And the messed up part is like they cage you and they expect you to sing the most beautiful song. And uh, and and unfortunately, I think at that age we were so scared, we ended up singing anyway. We almost glorified the fact that we were caged. Purity culture works that way, right? Yeah, I'm so pure, I'm so innocent, like so foolish. But like I think we've all come a long way, but then that's kind of how it starts.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the song. I'm very tempted to sing this song. "Kuila pudichi, kundil adichi, kuva solligira ullago." I think it's a and then there's another line, it goes like, "Maila pudichi, kala odichi, ada solligira ullago." I think that's a beautiful line. I used to love that line very much. But I think in terms of this caging, right, there's this, I think I also mentioned in the previous episode, is that this concept of zoo, where people are inside and the animals are outside. And I think somewhere people are confusing between, protection and imprisonment, and for women especially. And I think just because you're going to keep us inside the house, and I think a lot of these street interviews happens, right? And these street interviews, these men, boys and girls, go out into the street and ask men and women who is the reason for girls to be raped. And then they say that because girls are the reason that they are getting raped, because they are going out. Why are they going out? What does the need to go out? What does the need to go out after 6 o'clock? What does the need to wear such clothes? What does the need to wear such have such kind of conversation with boys? So the thing is, it is, I understand it's a very age old conversation, people have must have
But
heard.
but I'm very tempted to kind of have like a different take. Women have needs, no? Like, yeah, so when women go out and women are going out to find a boyfriend, find a husband, just want to have fun, right? That's a need that a woman has. Who are you to tell me I'm not supposed to have needs because I'm a woman? Like, what is this messed up logic where being a woman equals to not having needs? And somehow we women fight for this thing of, yes, I'm a woman, so I won't have needs. Again, this is getting into that space of self-abandonment, self-sacrificing. This is something we've been talking about from the first season, right? Like the minute I get caged, I don't have my needs met. But if I go out and get my needs met, again I'm blamed because like, what's wrong with you? You're getting your needs met. You're supposed to be a woman. No, you're not supposed to have needs met. You're immediately like vilified. You're made to feel like something's wrong with you. So a woman who's actually self-satisfied and happy, right, is seen as like the evil woman.
It is seen
This
as a
is a
evil
woman.
woman.
Huh.
I think even this aspect of, historically, like, commodifying women. I think like, if, for example, what they're saying is, if we go out into the world, people will look at as objects and they will objectify us, and they don't want us to talk to men or boys or whatever, because they want us to stay pure, our mind has to stay pure. But suddenly when the aspect of marriage comes in, and then you are being presented in front of multiple men in arranged marriages, you are commodified, you are objectified, right? They ask you to dance, they ask you to turn around, they ask you to show your body,
Yeah.
and what is happening, like, it it it,
they, they
it
check if
gets
your
me
hair is
so
real or
furious.
They check if your hair is real or not. Oh, such long hair. Is it real or fake?
And then they want to see, they ask you about your personal like periods, and like, you are not even my husband, okay? You don't have to
Yeah.
know about my periods, my frequency of periods, things like that. And it's so pathetic, yeah. Like, you are like, and this is where I think people are like caging us, because I think parents want us to commodify it in a socially acceptable manner. According to them, if you are objectified and sold in a setup, then you are pure, sold as a pure person. But if you go out into the world and a guy happens to like you, or you happen to like someone, and then you are like an impure way of you selling yourself. And I think recently today I had like a case where that girl is like, you can't like marry somebody from another caste, because it's not good for our community and things like that. And then she ends up marrying this guy, and this guy happens to sleep with multiple women.
Wait, this was an arranged marriage or this is the guy that the
This
girl
is the
chose?
arranged marriage, and she found out later after getting married to him. And then in terms of the love marriage, that they are like, what, things will not be easy. We will completely, whatever happens in your life, we will not care about it once things go, probably problematic in your love marriage. So now the arranged
Hmm.
marriage she has done according to them to make them happy. Now things have gone like this. Still, they are like, no, we won't.
Yeah, now that you're married, this is divine. Now you take care of your husband. Now sounds like, such a hellish experience, and I'm glad that, we fought for feminism, we fought for, equal rights. We have this option of divorce now because that's all protective. Um, but to our listeners, one way we want you to understand this commodification, because you might not be like completely understanding this, is we could look at the intersectionality that happens between race and gender. So if you look at race, you have the white people and the black people. So the reason we think white people are superior is because we kind of assume that white people have more free will compared to black people. So white people get to own black people. Likewise, you can kind of use the same analogy with man and woman. We assume that men have more freedom compared to women, and so men have the right to own women. And because men own women, men can do whatever they want with women. Men don't even have to ask for permission to marry women. They just have to ask the permission of the woman's parents to marry her. And once that permission is begotten, they can do whatever they want with her. There's no morality involved. There's no sort of personal responsibility involved, because this is kind of similar to owning, let's say, a car. If it's your car, you have every single right to destroy it. But then a woman is not a car. A woman is not an object. A woman has her own thoughts, feelings, and being. So, how do we kind of get to a place where we help women realize that they have their own thoughts and feelings that they deserve to express? Because I think a lot of women engage in this process of self objectification, right? Where it'll be the women who kind of say, it'll be the women in the family who say, women have to be caged, women have to, like, I know, like, if I go to my relative's house down south in Tamil Nadu, right? A lot of them will look at me and they'll kind of like say, okay, she's from Chennai, so she's like this. But I know there's a lot of judgment when I let my hair loose. Because a woman with loose hair is basically a characterless woman, according to them, right? So what you see is like a small thing where this is just, my hair. It's my hair. I grew this hair, right? But I'm not allowed to do whatever I want with it, because as a woman, this is a reflection of my family, my community, my whatnot. And so I'm expected to kind of protect the purity of, or the tradition of whatever, with my hair. So I'm supposed to tie it, right? So a loose haired woman is basically someone who is chaotic, someone who's problematic, is the idea. But then why is freedom in women seen as a problem is something that we need to talk about.
Hmm. Where do I start? What do I say? Because the thing is, with the whole freedom and things like that, I don't know. I really don't know what to add on here. Seriously. What did we discuss about?
I think one pivot we could take from here is basically the responsibility of older women and the role they play in younger women's lives. So, just to reflect on the older women in our lives, right? What we see is a very scooty example would be like talking about menstrual hygiene. Did you get like a official sex ed from your family?
No, no. The thing is, in terms of, I think I had a whisper ad, some class that they came and did in school. And after
Okay.
that, they gave me free whisper when I didn't get my periods. But then I gave it to my mom, I think. I said that they had this education thing and I didn't get my periods, so you can have this and things like that. But I had, I think the first time I had, I was home alone and I just had my periods and then I knew how to keep a pad and I just used it. And that's all. And then when my mom came, I said, look at my clothes and it was stained already. And then she was like, oh, you got your periods. Okay. That was all. That was all. I mean, there was nothing more. So yeah, I mean, there's no sex ed, forget about menstrual hygiene stuff. There's no hygiene education. Sex ed is just like out of topic. And you know, in schools, we are all science students and they didn't even cover female reproductive system somehow, and also
Yeah,
male
yeah.
reproductive system. So
I remember them covering contraceptives, but not in detail, but them saying this is a very important, like long answer for public
10
exam. So
mark
make sure
question,
you,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But then
So
what do I write in 10 mark question? God only knows.
you remember, you know, you all we were all supposed to know because this is
I
like
think we
important.
also, just because they were like skipped that part, we studied that part very well. And I
Very well,
also
yeah.
wanted that question, 10 mark question in.
I don't remember if it came or not, but I remember the page number. There were diagrams and things of different
Yeah.
things. And yeah, so the more they tell us not to do it, the more we do it. Maybe, you know, they are right. Maybe girls are more mature because of this. They're very curious, they're very intelligent enough to like do our own inquiry and get like proper resources. So, but like, I think one of the negative things that comes from like self, study, right, when it comes to this subject is that as much as we know that like sex and sexuality is normal, um but before that, do you want to tell our listeners the difference between sex and sexuality? What exactly is sex? What exactly is sexuality?
Okay, so I think as far as I know, sex is the gender. So what you're born with, male child and a female child, XY and XS chromosome. Sexuality is the way that you feel the femininity and the all hormones, the expression of womanhood, the procreation that comes out with it. And I think the most important thing about the sexuality is the way you feel as a woman and the kind of needs you have as a woman, kind of the horniness and the kind of the feelings, the ovulation, all the cycles, and each cycle giving you certain sort of feelings. It all imbibes under the sexuality thing. And being having worked as a reproductive psychologist, I think that's one thing I have been very, you know, I wouldn't say it was a fortunate thing, but I got to know that in India, people really don't know anything about sex, and it is okay until you are not married. But once you are married, and there are 25-year-olds coming and sitting as a couple and saying we don't know what to do, imagine that they are not pregnant for the last 2 years because they didn't know what to do. And that's the state of our world or our nation right now. And we are talking about a global, we are talking about a nationwide problem, because at that hospital I was working, people were coming from all over India. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are, as women, you see that they are asked to not think about their sexuality. And men are also going through a lot of troubles in terms of, because they don't know what it is. There was this man who came, I think I must have told in one episode, is that he was masturbating in his younger times. And then he came and told that right now he has no sperm in his this one. And he said, okay, I'm not having any sperms because, I masturbated, but that's not how biology works. And imagine he's not able to perform with his wife because of this. And it's a very sad thing. It's all because your parents are like you not doing anything, and that's so sad.
Uh, Wait, so this man actually had like ED, erectile dysfunction, because he overthought it and he thought, okay, I've already used up my sperm, so no more sperm for me.
No, it's the guilt. It's the guilt that is leading to overthinking, and that overthinking leading to lack of performance. So it is a very reversible thing for him, but it comes from it. He's been through this for like many years, and it's sad what he's been through.
Yeah, this is something that I hear women go through as well in terms of, not experiencing pleasure during sex or experiencing extreme pain during and after sex. And all these things again get back to this thing of like women expecting that sex is such a bad thing. So I think this is something I read about a few years back, where it spoke about how a lot of us women are familiar with like orgasm in terms of just like clitoral stimulation, but vaginal stimulation is something that gives very few women orgasms. And apparently, the reason is we don't really track our cycle for the sake of ovulation. We only track it for the sake of menstruation, because menstruation is something that disrupts our routine, right? So, and it's also something that we have social stigma towards, where we think we are impure during those days, we need to be separated during those days from like regular life. So I think menstruation is the primary focus of on sex ed when it comes to women. But we don't really talk about how follicular phase is amazing, how the ovulatory phase is amazing. We could actually use that to our benefit. And specifically, looking at ovulation, you see that right before ovulation. So ovulation is basically the peaking of estrogen, and right after the egg releases, the estrogen levels go down, and then you actually feel a sense of doom. So this particular window where your estrogen is like progressively increasing and then reaches that peak, right? Um a lot of women actually start to have like sexual fantasies. They experience a lot of social changes where they feel like getting dressed up. They feel like talking to men more. They feel I mean they would notice that their voice changes. Like when they are talking, they have like a higher pitched voice when they talk to their male counterparts. All these things are seen as, oh my god, this girl is an attention seeker and whatnot. But like all these things are part of our evolutionary process of finding a mate, right? So when a man is talking to a woman and he's trying to impress a woman through his like body language and whatnot, we say, oh, he's just being a man, he's just like attracted, and it's completely normal. But when a girl does the same thing towards a love interest of hers, we immediately say, okay, what is this girl doing? Why is she trying to like get his attention? What's wrong with her? And I think this is something that we learn in school, where our teachers, tease us. I remember I had teachers who kind of, shamed girls for wearing shorter skirts, or, we used to have, the socks that we wore, right? It was compulsory to wear those long socks.
Mm.
I think around high school was when all of us decided to switch to ankle socks because I don't know, it was cooler for some strange reason. So we would either roll it down or we would actually like properly wear ankle socks, and that was again seen as like such um a hoary thing to do, because like good girls don't wear ankle socks. So small things like this made all of us feel like we there's something wrong with us. And one way to kind of undo this is if we uh, raise our future daughters to kind of be more accepting of their sexuality. Again, just to clarify, we are not asking young women to become sexually active where they engage with sex as an act, right? But we're just saying all the sexual changes that's kind of coming about is just natural. And when you talk about it, they get to basically own their body and control their own bodies. You don't have to control it for them by shaming them. I think right now there's such a lack of awareness that the only way we think that we can control this is by caging young women. But we could think about not caging them, but rather empowering them with information that these young women would be smart enough to put themselves first, put their lives first, focus on the things they need to, but also understand that talking to boys, feeling good when you talk to boys, is basically just normal development. What do you think, Anne?
Yeah, I think I wanted to make this point. So I was in the UK, right? So I was teaching and training, doing trainings for school children. So I used to go around the schools in the UK. And if you see the socializing process or the, transition from girlhood to teenage, it's a very healthy things that they do. So they have safe sex practices classes after the age of puberty, after they get puberty, and they have contraceptive classes, they have sex education, they have dating practices, safe dating practices, and in terms of mental health support and relationship support. So they had so many resources for these kids. And also you will see that kids were allowed to date and socialize among male and female, like we are, if you see in this our society, especially the Tamil society, men and boys and girls are not allowed to talk, right? And that creates a sort of a curiosity, like what is there in that particular gender that we are not made to talk, right? And suddenly when that age comes where you are supposed to get married, and suddenly like men and women are like panicking, like, oh, I didn't know what to do with them so long, and suddenly you're asking me to socialize. But in the UK culture, there's like complete, they wear as short clothes as possible. Like they are extremely exposed to women's bodies and men's body, but they are not agitated or turned on by each other, because they are made to understand from a very young age it's just a normal boy, it's just a normal girl, it's just a normal human body. And they also have co-ed swimming pools, and they have the swimming costumes, and they have these clothes that they wear and things like that. It's very normal. And I think that kind of socialization process and dating process, that the parents themselves have the talk with the children and allow them to socialize and date and go for proms and have that relationships at a very young age, say around 18, 19, 20, and all of that, when the children come up to the parents and openly talk about it. So I think that it is, they are going with the biology, they are going with the evolution, how it's supposed to be, because there's more open environment for this. That's why things are like not as difficult as it is in India, where people are like looking at us and staring at us and things like that, and they're getting agitated even with this, sleeveless and things like that. So, and another thing you will see is even now in metropolitan cities, you see that you don't get as many stairs as you would get in a small town. And that is because,
Mm.
again, socialization process. People are used to seeing women or girls wearing short skirts, crop tops, things like that. So they don't get agitated or turned on. So, do you see where I'm going with this kind of a narrative?
Yeah, so I think this is how it was in our culture back in the day before the colonialization happened, right? Uh, our grandmothers, I mean, our great grandmothers did not wear blouses. It was the sari was worn in a very different way. And then the British came over and they said, if this is going to be it, it's going to be easy to rape and exploit women. And so the dress code that we have now is basically something that the Westerners enforced upon us. And somehow they became like, very chill with sex and sexuality. They borrowed our intelligence and our culture. And we're still stuck in that sort of colonialized, way of thinking where we think we need to control female body. We need to control bodily autonomy of men and women. More so women than men, because we want women to take responsibility for men's mistakes as well. So I think one way to kind of navigate this is to basically unlearn this ourselves. Maybe, the next time we wear clothes that are a little um, more comfortable than what we're told is comfortable for us, we own it. It's going to be uncomfortable in the beginning, but we need to kind of get out of our comfort zone and understand that just because someone stares at you doesn't make your value any less, because it simply doesn't. Just because, even if someone touches you, your value is not going to reduce. So this whole thing of like, your value is basically based on how untouched you are, how like you're not a product. It's so messed up that we think like this, when we say, oh, the I have to be as fresh as a newborn. I think this is also like the pedophilia culture, right? Where the purity culture is basically set up by pedophiles where we say the purer you are, the better it is to marry you. You see young men discussing this, where they say, there's no single girl who's a virgin anymore. So if you want a virgin wife, you need to date a girl in her eighth standard. Like this is the conversation guys are having at age 30, right? And then it's so normal where they're like pure girl, innocent girl, eighth standard. Like she could be your daughter, bro. Like what are you talking about? But I think this is the sort of pedophilic psychopathic culture that like we've adapted to. This is all western, by the way. This is nothing to do with our Indian culture, and our Indian culture wasn't this way. At least the Dravidian South Indian culture wasn't this way. And then we slowly kind of shifted into this mentality where we thought, okay, female bodies have to be covered. Just for reference, right? If you go to any temple, like old temple, you will see depictions that are very
You saw
not safe
the
for.
recent, textbooks are the idol. They
No.
censored it. They censored the
Oh,
idol.
we're so ashamed of our own culture at this point. We're just brainwashed, whitewashed
He's like a
Indians.
stick with no body parts.
That's exactly what women need to be. Be like sticks with no body parts because only that is comfortable. Because if you are a
You
real
know
woman,
what is a
right?
stick with no body parts? Kids.
I don't wanna. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I don't wanna guess. I don't wanna play this game. It's such a dangerous game to play. Don't be pedophiles, people. Like be decent humans, be nice, be kind, fall in love, don't buy people. Like whatever it is, I think it's better to address things with education from the very beginning. How do we conclude this episode now?
See, the thing is, we have spoken bits and pieces of how to raise a teen daughter. I think one thing is, which parents are doing, is a lot of slut shaming of your daughters. Please, I have clients coming at the age of 30, 35, and telling that their mothers have slut shamed them, and now they can't do anything without that voice of their mothers for talking over them all the time, and they feel like shit. When they look at themselves in the mirror, they feel bad, and when they go out into the dating world, they feel like they are not worthy enough to be dated because they are, good, not good enough, and
Yeah.
things like that. See, all these voices, do you want to raise a generation of daughters like this? The more you control them, is that more you imprison them and cage them and torture them. And I think it is important for you to let a child grow naturally, how it's supposed to be, how God intended, if you believe in God or the universe or the nature or whatever you call it. It has to be, the child has to grow the way it has to grow for it to develop into a fully functional human. And only then socialize, not just for woman, girl child, also make them, the boy child, be okay with the socialization process, okay with the way that, okay, this is a girl, this is a boy, we both are same gender, this is just a body, this is not that something that's very, weird. Don't create that sort of a curiosity in people, and they do. Yeah, basically that. And I think, to conclude it, just be good human beings,
Please.
please, pretty please.
This is a very nice way to end the second season.
Yeah, we
Yes,
are like
very.
basically begging.
Please, please, please. Just go read a book. Don't spread nonsense. If you don't have anything nice to say, shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That reel where that little birdie will be like, what did I tell you about? What did your father say today? If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Have you seen that?
I don't know if I've seen that, but yeah, that's like a famous, quote. So
Yeah.
I've come across it in multiple
That's
things.
a little squirrel saying, don't say anything at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the advice mothers need to hear, and honestly, everyone needs to do it. But like mothers and fathers who are raising teen daughters, don't say anything at all.
But then they will be like, what do we say then?
Go read a book, repeat whatever the book says. Oh, also make sure the book is legit. Don't
Chetan Bhagat
read
book.
dumb
They will
books.
read Chetan Bhagat books.
No. Okay, I think this is where we say, if you don't know what to say to your child, refer them to a professional.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, a reproductive psychologist, if you can, a
Or a
therapist,
regular
a
psychologist.
pediatrician,
Uh,
a general physician, like someone who, or a gynecologist, someone who knows what they're doing, like check endocrinologist, like whatever it is, like go to an expert. You don't do the job. Like, don't
but
put that
sometimes
pressure on
expert
yourself.
also give wrong advice, bro. The
Yeah,
gynecologist auntie also says things that are very harmful for the daughters.
yeah, the daughters would hear things like, you are like my child. Why are you talking like this?
You should not do this. So what do we do?
Yeah, so maybe, leave comments below, and then we'll see if we could have a conversation around this in the next season as well. Because this is, I think, one conversation that we talk about, where we say there's no education, but then there's no real education that is accessible to us. So if this is a need, then maybe we could address this in the channel, where we could actually sit and give you references, and maybe elaborate more on the actual physiological changes and the psychological changes that goes on. We'd be glad to share like personal experiences and stories from people we know, so that this podcast could not just be like sipping tea with your girlfriends, but also like sitting in a classroom
Learning,
and
taking
getting legit
notes.
information. Yeah, yeah.
And we'll also, I think, I know a lot of good doctors, contacts who put good content outside. And I will link them because she does a lot of pleasure based education for young ladies as well. So I think we can put them in the description box so you can go
Yeah,
and refer
yeah.
to them. And from a proper professional. So don't be harmful to your daughters. Don't shame them. Don't slut shame them. If you don't know, look for resources outside, read a lot of resources, and then or else go come to a community of actual professionals who we can give, probably guide you to the right person as well. So if there's any more comments, do give us, and keep following us. Thank you for doing following us all through the season. Like us, comment, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram while we are away until the next season is up. And yeah, we will see you for another great episode and next season. Until next time, bye bye from Marianne and
Bye bye from Pauline. Bye.
bye.